It's just another school day at Royerskraal Primary. But for 10-year-old Nicole Bester, it's an achievement. 3 weeks ago, her stepfather had shot her at close range in the stomach, and she survived. That was the day Gerard Pieterse shot his whole family. He shot his wife Hanli through the head and his 7-year-old stepdaughter Sune through the heart. His own daughter Elzani also died instantly. Then he shot Nicole and went into the house where he turned his shotgun on himself. Less than 2 weeks later, Nicole managed to attend her mother and baby sister's funeral. She now lives with her father, well-known actor Nicole Bester.
Ek en jy begin vandag 'n nuwe lewe. En my enigste wens en gebed is dat elke dag van vandag jy 'n baie gelukkige en 'n sonskyn dag sal wees. Papa.
Today, Nicole still struggles to grasp what really happened that fateful morning. She says it doesn't seem real. It feels like a dream. She remembers her mother and Gerard arguing. Hanli had said he'd hit her on her breasts. He'd insisted it had been on her stomach. Hanli told the children to get into the car. She was going to report him to the police. But Gerard tried to force Hanli into the bedroom, his usual way to avoid beating her in front of the children.
Toe lig hy op en toe maak hy haar seer. Toe sê sy, "Ei nog Gerard, los my," en skree sy. Toe skree ek vir hom, "Los my ma." Want hy het nie die reg om haar op te tel en haar seer te maak.
I knew for a long time that the beating was going on. And it doesn't matter where I heard it. It wasn't from the children. It was from other sources. But I decided to stay out of it. It was not my marriage. It was something of the past for me, and all that was important were my 2 children. When they came to me, they had to have peace. And therefore, I never spoke to them about what's going on there. I never asked them questions, and I also respected their silence.
My ma wou nie gehad het ek moes vir hom vertel wat aangaan. Want sy was lief vir hom Gerard, en sy wou nie gehad het aan hom sleg gedink het van hom Gerard nie. Sy wou nie gehad het ek moes vir iemand vertel het nie.
Hanli phoned me about a month and a half ago. And we had a very serious discussion that evening, and she told me everything that happened between the 2 of them. She said sorry to me for what she's done, and I know that it was a true begging for forgiveness, and I forgive her totally, because it's something that happened in our lives, and I can't live with the past.
En sy het vir hom gesê, as jy tot lief was, beter as wat jy is. Ek wens eerder ek nog met lief geplaas wat ek nou met jou was. Lief het my nooit geslaan nie, hy het net met sy mond beklei. En toe ons wou ry, toe gaan staan hy langs my ma se venster, toe skiet hy. En toe gaan staan hy agter, toe skiet hy. En toe gaan staan hy voor, toe skiet hy my. Gelukkig het hy ons nie met 'n byl dit gemaak nie. Anders sou ek nou dit gewees het. Maar as hy ons met 'n byl dit gemaak het, dan dink ek ons sou kon vlug. Want hy kon dan nie die byl wegsteek nie. Ons sou kon sien as hy die byl wegsteek. Maar hier het hy sy baadjie toegemaak en sy hand ingedruk.
Jy het nie eens gesien
Ek het nie eens gesien hy druk sy hand in sy baadjie in. Al wat ek geweet het, ek tog hy vat die baksteen en slaan die ruitstukkend. En toe gaan staan hy agter en slaan die ruitstukkend. So, ek het eintlik baie groot geskrik. Ek tog hy wil nou by elke ruit stikkend kap. Maar toe sit eintlik hy by die pistool wat skiet. Toe skiet hy die ruit. Ja. Ek het nie gedink hy, maar toe hy my maag kom skiet, toe sien ek hy lig die pistool.
Kan jy gekyk?
Het gelyk of hy lag. Het gelyk of hy op sy gelukkigste is. Gelyk of hy nog nooit so gelukkig was.
Nou het jy geweet hoe mos jy.
Ja, maar ek was so geskok, ek tog sy begin net te slaap en my sussie het geskreeu, so ek vir haar rustig, want ek was bang om Gerard kom terug en begin weer te skiet. En so ek vir sy met rustig raak. En toe gaan sit, maar sy het opgestaan terwyl sy skreeu. Toe gaan sit sy en toe raak sy in slaap toe begin sy. Ek weet nie of sy gaan slaap het, maar sy het net begin snork en haar oë was toe. Toe snork sy die hele tyd en ek het dog sy slaap.
Like her mother, little Sune didn't stand a chance. The bullet had penetrated her heart. Elzani may have tried to escape because her body was found in the driveway.
Often you find this is the final act of showing power, coupled with extreme anger. It is probably the most aggressive deed one can find, is to kill your own family and then yourself.
As a criminologist, Irma Labuskaghni has dealt with at least 3,000 murders. Several were family murderers who had survived. Irma says there is no distinct profile of a family murderer. Human behavior varies, as do personalities. In most cases, though, you will find a long history of perceived failure, financial insecurity, sexual frustration, as well as a loss of control and self-esteem.
A family murder is always the end of a process. It's never an out-of-the-blue, sudden occurrence. It happens, the beginning of it, way before the tragedy strikes.
Gerard was depressed. I think he couldn't vent his feelings in any other way than being angry. I think it all begins when boys are babies, you know. But I just think maybe we as mothers, if we teach our sons to express their feelings more, and then we can have much better marriage relationships. Gerard wasn't very good in expressing his feelings, and it all built up, and I think it just blew up.
Gerard had a long history of violence. The woman he lived with before Hanley was also abused and badly beaten, and his ex-wife had to obtain a protection order against him.
If a person goes so far as to go to a court and apply for a protection order, it's usually not the first fight. It's usually not something very light. It's usually severe. And if you look at all those matters, it's been going on for quite a long time. So if you are marrying somebody or going in a relationship and that person's got a protection order against him, I would think twice.
Gerard once used a brick to smash Hanley's car window when she tried to leave during an argument. At another stage, her arm was inexplicably broken. And Nicole remembers the time she heard him bash her mother's head against the grid of the braai.
En toe huil my ma en hy het ook gehuil. Maar ek dink hy wou net dit gefake het.
Een keer het Nicole en haar ma en Sinai by ons kom slaap. Want oom Gerard het iets gedoen, maar ek weet nie presies wat nie. Toe het ons haar kar weggesteek en alles. Want sy kom skuilings soek.
Dan sê hy vir my ma, sy moet haar pille drink, want hy het haar so geslaan en sulke goed dat sy na 'n dokter toe moes gaan vir 'n lang ruk, en sy het al, dink ek, 2 keer sin toe gegaan, 3 keer. Maar sy het lank daar gebly, dan moes ek en my sussie alleen met hom gebly.
En ek het eers nie verstaan hoekom het my ma nie daarvan gehou as sy wou nie regtig gehad het ons moes daar gaan nie. Toe het ek nie verstaan nie. Toe Nicole vir my gesê en toe verstaan ek nou hoekom my ma nie wou gehad het ons moet daar speel nie. En as ons daar was, sou ons ook daar nie nou hier gewees het nie.
Een keer toe het my ma haar deur toe gemaak, want sy is bang vir hom. Toe maak sy haar deur toe en sit voor die deur. Toe slaan hy die deur oop met sy vuis. Toe ek dadelik hoor, Tannie Annelie en Sinai is dood. Klaar, net so. Toe is ek hartseer, maar ek het ook toe vir Nicole jammer gekry. En partykeer dan gaan sy maar wens sy was dood, want dit gaan baie hard wees. My sussie het altyd gesê sy wens sy is dood, as ek en sy beklei. En sê sy, ek wens ek was dood, en sy wil altyd haarself 'n mes gevat het en haar keel afsny of so iets. So my sussie het ook eintlik baie swaar gekry met die bekleierery.
Julle weet ons wil graag vir Sunay se pappa en vir Nicole wil ons nou ons klasfoto op 'n mooi karton monteer.
Here in the classroom, Mariette Brits could tell by Sunay's behavior that there was trouble at home. And sometime before the tragedy, her suspicions were confirmed. But she decided to wait for the next parent day, a decision she now regrets.
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought that life taking its turn, that at one or other time something would happen, something would come out. Sunay's mother would come to me and I would be able to do more.
These are things that are kept undercover, but when they are noticed and observed, often people choose to set it aside and just pray it doesn't happen again. That's the kind of denial, that's the Band-Aid that gets put on something that is slowly festering, slowly burning, and is ready to erupt. The more that we repress things, the more they're building a power underground, ready to explode.
I learned that if you have a friend, be nice to her, because something can happen like this and you can never see her again. As hy in die hemel kom, dan dink ek hy moet vir Jesus sê hoekom het hy dit gedoen. Sunay, I loved you very much and I really want to be your friend again if I really can.
Being 7 years old and dying is, I don't know what to say about it. But I've also got the precious thoughts that she was ours for 7 years. And I look upon it as she went home and she's safe now. Nobody will hurt her ever again.
Tronk toe gegaan het, maar wat ek nie kan verstaan het nie is hoekom het die tannie nie dat hy nou maar net tronk toe gaan nie, want as 'n man mens seer maak, dan weet mens toch. Sy het gesê sy was te lief vir hom. Dus hoekom? Sy wil nie hom in die tronk sit nie, maar nou is hy dood.
I know that Annelie went for professional help. I don't know where, because I didn't discuss that with her. She wasn't my wife, and I want to emphasize that because she wasn't my wife, there was nothing I could do. But there were certain people that she had contact with, and I think that those people should have, they should have taken care of something, because the cry for help was there.
In contrast to Gerard, who was bankrupt, Hanli was a successful businesswoman with a strong, outgoing and compassionate personality. Yet she also had her own sense of failure. This was her fourth marriage and she was determined to make it work. But while she saw a psychologist, Gerard refused to go to therapy. Hanli then asked Gerard's parents to intervene and insisted he attend a marriage seminar with her. She even asked her own church for help and advice. So what went wrong?
I think she was just given the wrong advice. I think no woman can stay in a violent relationship, and she shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have stayed, or Gerard shouldn't have been there with her in the house. I think they tried their best. I think they thought the advice they gave was good advice, but in the end it proved that it wasn't.
What was the advice?
That she should stay and work on the relationship, and that she should pray for him.
For the last 10 years, Essie was one of Hanli's closest friends. Yet it was only a few months before her death that Hanli told Essie what was really happening to her. A month before the tragedy, Hanli demanded that Gerard leave the house. But after only 2 weeks, she allowed him back.
I think because they worked together in the same house, she felt very bad to take him away from his work the time that he was gone. And she felt responsible for the situation that he's in. And Hanli's a person who believes that if you give somebody a chance, you have to give it 100%. And that is what she did. She gave him a 100% chance to start a new life. And he didn't have the time to heal. He didn't have the time to come over. The insecurity. Hanli was very successful in her business. It could have been so different.
I think she really loved him and she really believed in him. And she was very religious. She thought that God could change him. And I think she was also proud. She didn't want to have another divorce, and I think she just she didn't want to fail.
There was nothing that she could have done. Could she have kept it at bay? Could she have prolonged this a little longer? Had she been this or that? I'm sure many people will have ideas about that, but at the end of the day, only he could have taken account or responsibility for his inability to respond to overwhelming feelings of jealousy, rage, impotence, powerlessness, inadequacy. There was nothing that she could have done to have altered the course of these events. We often say things like, we don't want to get involved, don't want to intrude, we don't want to be disrespectful. All these mechanisms of silence enable these processes to go on and on and on endlessly until some catastrophe can and often does occur.
If I had another chance, yes, I would have been more supportive. I would have been more assertive by telling her to get out. What I said is, I can't make up your mind. You have to decide yourself. And it was wrong. Sy het vir my gesê, hy het die kluis se sleutels teruggevat. Ek sê, wat is in die kluis? Sy sê, die pistole, die gewere. Ek sê, maar is dit 'n goeie ding? Ek het op daai oomblik aan sy lewe gedink, nie aan haar nie. Mens is altyd so geneig om te dink, jou opinie teken nie veel nie. Ek persoonlik dink nie, ek het die reg om iemand anders se lewe in te meng. Ek sal dit my reg maak. Maar wat is die man? Dis verkeerd. Doen dit. Dit is vir hom te besluit, maar ek het dit gedoen. So ja, ek staan ook skuldig.
Nie raar.
Don't turn a blind eye. We shouldn't.
Towards the end, Hanli obtained an interim protection order, but failed to see it through. A protection order becomes final only if the complainant has appeared before a magistrate. Hanli allowed her order to expire. While filming at the magistrate's offices in Pretoria, a woman happened to walk in. Her face was beaten black and blue and her eyes were bloodshot. At the back of her neck was an ugly wound where she'd been bitten. Her words eerily echoed Hanli's story. She was so distraught she hardly noticed us filming. To protect her, we have disguised her face and replaced her voice. But what you are about to hear are her exact words.
At one stage, you wanted me to write all the incidents, but there's not enough space to write all the incidents, so I just gave you a brief summary at the top and the incident that happened now recently.
Are you married?
I'm engaged. And I felt pregnant. And that was the time he kicked me in the stomach. And 3 months later, I started bleeding, and I had to have an evacuation of the uterus because of him. He made me lose the baby. Because deep inside of me, I do really love him. I don't love what he's doing to me. And I wanted to believe that things would change. I really did. I wanted to believe it. But he says he only does it with me. I'm the only one that's ever provoked him like that. So, am I such a bad person that if I lock him out of the house, does that mean he's got to beat me up?
We are never responsible for other people's violence. And many women in these very abusive relationships try and take responsibility for men's experience of impotence, powerlessness, and if they were only better, this man would feel better and would feel more powerful, which of course is denying what the problem really is. We are all responsible for our own emotional experience.
At Weerdebrug police station, there are several people who are still coming to terms with their emotions and what they witnessed at the scene of the crime that awful day. Sergeant Ralph van Vuren was one of the first people on the scene. He attended to Nicole, who had managed to get out of the car and was lying in the driveway, bleeding profusely.
En toe maak hy my toe in sy baadjie om my warm te hou dat ek nie so vinnig as ek te veel bloed verloor, dat ek nie so vinnig dood sal gaan.
Op 'n stadium het ek vir haar gesê, of het sy vir my gesê, oom, ek wil nie doodgaan nie. Sy sê vir haar, Nicole, ek beloof jou, vandag gaan jy nie doodgaan nie. Dit is interessant, toe sê sy vir my, oom, jy moet nie so sê nie.
My moeder het vir my vertel, ek mag nie beloof nie. Sê ek vir my, ek mag nie beloof nie.
Hoekom mag hom nie so beloof nie?
Want party mense kom nie hulle beloftes na nie.
Hy het syne nagekom.
Ja.
Hy is my hero. Hy is my grootste hero. En hy het my gered.
Ja, sometime, jy van die tyd. Papa het gesê, ons moet 'n bietjie gesels, 'n bietjie reël.
En die polisie, die hele polisie, almal wat daar was, al die polisie mense is my hero. Maar Fires is my grootste hero.
Nicole and Sergeant van Vuren still share a special bond. He kept her fighting for her life, and she rewarded him by pulling through. He recently promised to take her for an ice cream, another promise he was able to keep.
And may God grant that as long as I live, no one will hurt this one again. That's the only thing I long for now. That she must be very happy, that she must experience love, and that she'll never, never be hurt again.
Lekker. Hoop jy gaan 'n lekker lewe wees. En ek weet dit gaan 'n lekker lewe wees. Ek wag net nou lekker nie.
Verder te ry. Tweede vers.